Oh my gosh.
So here we are. This is episode 1.
Glenn, I'm so nervous.
Let's just start talking through, and then we won't use any of this stuff in the beginning.
Okay.
We'll just start chatting away and then see where it ends up.
Okay.
All right. How's your day today?
Well, pretty fantastic.
Yeah. What'd it go like from moment you woke up? What was the situation?
Well, every day the moment I wake up is wild and crazy because I have a cat, Josie, that thinks she needs to wake up the household.
Okay.
So she's always right in your face, and you're like, 2 more minutes. Give me 2 more minutes.
Right. Right.
And then she follows you like a dog when you get your coffee, when you're in the shower. I'm like, cat, you're not normal. Get out of here.
Right. Right.
And then, of course, about 2 minutes after getting the coffee going, then I start getting into emails, if there's any text messages, things that have already come in. And usually I'm in the home office and start responding to things, anything that's, quick and easy, hurry responses. I can get back out to people. So I'm on that from the moment I'm out of bed and starting my coffee in the morning.
Yep. So you'll hear like some real estate coaches and people like that saying that's the last thing you do is check email in the morning and whatnot. But
yes,
you seem to find some sort of success with knocking that stuff out first thing in the morning.
I do. Definitely the ones that are like the quick, easy little responses. Yep, we're good to go. Or, something that can easily be responded to. And then I do really enjoy reading some of the emails and kind of mentally start processing things because it sort of sets the tempo for my day of, am I in and out of the shower and get going, or do I have a few minutes to think through something, or do I need to have further conversations with somebody to know what direction we're going on something, and it kind of sets my priority levels for the day.
Right. Do you think that like psychologically helps you too? Like if you're getting like little things out of the way, so you've gotten like some of the checklist knocked out type thing, you're already starting with like a win almost in your head?
It does for reals. Also, it's helpful because I am fortunate that I have 2 assistants. So when I jump into those emails, I can set my order of importance on things. And because my assistants have access to the same emails, I will send an email to myself that my assistants will see when they arrive in the morning. So then they're able to continue through some of the items that may already have come into email that they can hurry and print, put in a file, have it ready for me with a file on my desk so I can hurry up and review it, send it for signatures, or get a hold of somebody, have conversations. So it helps me to get them organized as well for urgent, important items.
Right.
And then it does help set the tempo for the day.
Yeah, then your day's kind of in order.
Yes.
Going from there.
Yeah.
So when we first met, it was like almost 7 years ago.
Yes.
When I came in the brokerage. I don't remember exactly how, but I either knocked on your door, maybe sent you an email or something.
Probably both.
Probably both. But at that time, you had no assistants.
Correct.
It was just you doing things solo.
Yes.
How was that? Like, has your routine changed from then to now? Like, what has been the difference?
My business has substantially changed from 7 years ago.
Yeah.
The level of production that we do has increased substantially. Fortunately, again, having assistants now, that helps me tremendously. They're an enormous amount of help to make phone calls, help keep my files organized. I'm OCD, for those that don't know. I'm very particular on things being organized and trying to stay ahead of the game as much as possible, communicating with other agents, talking with site supers and that kind of thing to make sure that we've got things ready to go for walkthroughs or closings or keys, just the gamut of things that happen through the course of construction or completion and closing of homes.
Right.
So from that time frame, at that point, I was handling everything.
Somehow.
And I, some social media apps are kind of funny because they will give you the time hop reminders of things. And I look at things that are now popping up from 5 years ago where I maybe posted on Facebook where I have 33 more emails to review and X number of voicemail messages.
At what time of night?
And it would be like 10 o'clock at
10
night.
o'clock at night. Yeah.
And I would still be at the office. My goal was to not leave the office without having responded to emails or responding to voicemail messages, or at least listening to all the voicemail messages and then setting some sort of priority if I'm not able to respond right then because it is so late at night.
Right.
Even just getting a quick email communication out to another agent, let them know, hey, sorry, I just got your messages. Here's the best response I can give at this time, or just want to let you know I've heard your message and I'll get back to you tomorrow when I have further details. So just getting some piece of communication out so that people know I'm aware, I'm on it,
right.
or what my next course of action is going to be to get them some sort of a response.
Yep.
I would be at the office till 3 a.m, 4 a.m, sometimes 5 a.m. I would
Right.
be leaving the office and people would be arriving, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm still in the same clothes.
Yep. So for those that don't know that are listening, right now you represent a builder. I mean, technically two builders, but you have the same client. It's a single builder, two different brands.
Yes.
Be a fair statement. And you do only listing sides.
Correct.
Right now. Yep. And how long ago did you stop working with buyers? I mean, you might help your builder purchase a few lots here and there, land acquisitions, but you're not representing buyers of homes right now.
Right. So I basically, right about 9 years ago, I started representing P&R Construction, which is Infinity Homes. It probably about 3 years into it was when I exclusively went the direction of just being on the listing side, representing my builders, or like you mentioned, in the buying acquisition of land, lots,
Right.
that kind of stuff, representing them as the buyers for those transactions. So about that time frame's when I transitioned. Before, I would do resell. I would work with buyers. I attempted to tackle doing dual agency on new construction, which
Right.
is very tricky. My hat's off to any agent that successfully does it. It is a very tricky position to be in. You want to do the best for all of your clients that you represent at any point in any transaction. And it is challenging, to say the least. And I've found that from a communication aspect and a time management aspect, it helps to have a buyer be represented by a buyer's agent.
Sure.
I just feel like for myself and even for my builder, from a sense of liability, it just makes more sense.
Yep. Yeah, I can see the time management part of it too. I mean, and for people that don't know, you were doing over 200 sides a year, and you hit 300 or were close to 300?
Yeah. In 2020, I did 304 units. That included land units.
Yep.
Actual home sales, I think we were right at 253 that year.
Yeah. Yeah. Incredible. So what did it get to, how did it get to that point? Like leading up to it, like if you were to go year after year, 5 years back, wasn't it somewhere maybe around a little shy of 100, then it kind of shot up, and then it seemed like 1 year it kind of catapulted up there?
Yes. Through the course of representing, initially it was just Infinity Homes, and then as market shifted and construction costs continued to increase, we saw a need in the market to create another product, another price point of homes. And so we then worked together to create ProMade construction, ProMade homes, and ProMade is our exceptional value, uncompromised quality. Mm-hmm. So our goal was to be able to offer very similar construction, quality, materials, craftsmanship, contractors, and be able to offer more options to buyers out there.
Sure.
So as we transitioned, initially it was the learning curve, the first couple years, trying to figure out materials and what we're building and floor plans and getting the lots. And then eventually they became a development contracting company and worked to buy raw land and develop lots. And even initially on that venture, we were still trying to figure out our standards and what we were including in the homes and the floor plans and how much adjustments and opportunities of personalizing a home versus customizing a home.
Right.
And really identifying to be able to be a builder that builds at a large capacity. We needed to kind of narrow things down a little bit and just get to more of a production opportunity.
Right. Streamline the process and all that.
Absolutely.
And I've noticed too that you have streamlined a lot too. So like I said, when I first started, you were probably roughly around 50 sides a year, somewhere around there. I don't know exactly, but somewhere on there. And like you said, you were here till 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night. I worked 2 jobs at that time, so that's how we got to know each other pretty well, because I'd get off of my other job, get here about 5 o'clock, but your day was probably half over at that point.
Yes.
Still going through.
And then, of course, my door's open, lights are on, and agents are coming in, scanning in offers or doing whatever business they're doing, and they would stop and say hi or ask a random real estate question, and my door was basically always open. So I wanted to be helpful as much as I could and hopefully offer guidance or suggestions or advice or whatever I can do to help anybody.
Right. I've appreciated that. I mean, it helped me tremendously my first year. And I've seen you continue to do that with, doesn't matter who walks through the door, if they have a will and some drive to succeed, you make the time for them somehow.
I do. This career's been incredible and fun and stressful, and there's so many things that you learn as a real estate professional on a daily basis. This is a forever continuing learning career, which is part of why I love it so much. But I recall being a brand new agent and what that looked like and how stressed and uncomfortable I was being a new agent. And if I have any shred of advice or suggestions or anything that I can do to help a new agent, as long as they're putting in the effort and trying to be successful and be professional in this business, I'm willing to offer them whatever knowledge capacity that I can. I want them to be successful. So whatever I can do, I'm always willing as much as I can, as much as time allows.
Yep. So touching back to kind of like the whole, your builder streamlining processes more, or you streamlining processes more. I noticed in that year, like you were staying late, doing 50 transactions a year. Okay, fast forward 3-4 years, now you're doing over 200 sides per year. And I've noticed you're not at the office as late as much. Right. And sometimes there's like a get shit done night where you got to pull the late shift, but most times you're out of here at a fairly reasonable time now. Is that fair to say? It
definitely is. I will say technology has created a huge advantage. I rely heavily on Dropbox. So I keep every transaction at my fingertips at a moment's notice. Obviously, I have 2 cell phones.
Right.
So I can be on one cell phone having a conversation and looking at a whole transaction file in my other cell phone, or sending text messages to site supers or the builder's team or somebody to help communicate stuff at the same time that I'm on a different cell phone. And having access to Dropbox, keeping everything organized and updated constantly, staying ahead of the game all the time, responding to emails as quickly as I can so that there's communication and constant feedback to whoever it needs to go to. But that technology aspect has been enormous. DocuSign is incredible. When I first started representing the builder, we were still signing offers with pen and paper.
Right. And you've been in the business going on 18 years, roughly?
Getting right there,
18 years. So describe for people what it was like in that year one with how you would write a contract or how agents would write contracts.
Okay, so real estate in 2004 when I started. Oh my gosh, there's so much has changed. Contracts themselves were carbon copy. They were
so you have like multiple sheets where you have to sign the top.
Everything's handwritten. You are pressing hard through the pieces of paper. It's cloak and dagger style. So late at night, you put your offer into an envelope and you're driving over to the other brokerage's office and they have drop boxes. Or you would fax. You're scanning in and faxing these offers to other fax machines and hoping that all the pages get through. And these things are completely illegible by the time they're faxed back and forth and everybody's signatures. And you're like, is this really a document? Like we're doing real estate transactions with these things that are barely legible. And then you fax it to the title and escrow company and making sure that they received all the pages.
Right. Hoping they could at least make out a name and a purchase price or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We didn't have Paragon at the time. We had
Paragon being our MLS computerized.
Yep.
Yep.
At that moment, I don't recall the actual database that we had the houses in, but we could load, I think it was 6 photos of the house. Digital cameras weren't even quite happening yet, other than you had the floppy disk you would put in the side of the digital camera to try and take an uber grainy photo.
Right.
That was just becoming available technology. Most people would use their regular flash cameras taking pictures, and then you take it to 1 hour photo to get your duplicate copies made. Then you go back to this is so bad. You go back to your computer and your scanner, your flatbed scanner, and you're scanning in the photos 1 image at a time to then save it to your computer. And you have to do this upload, download to get it to launch out to our home buying
database. Type thing. Yeah.
It wasn't linked to internet. So to see the content, you could print out similar to the all fields detail or agent flyers that we do now. But it would be agent confidential information. You would print these out. There was other versions that were kind of similar to a flyer version, and you would have to print these out and then 1 page at a time scan it in to email it to your clients. And that was like technology at that point.
Right. Like, wow, this is going to save us so much time.
Putting a color flyer in somebody's yard, you were using neon paper with black and white photos.
Right.
That was a color flyer at the point.
Make it stand out moment. With that neon.
It was great because everything was inkjet printers. So if you use inkjet and then you put it in the flyer box and then the sprinklers turn on and now you've got a rainbow of colors across a piece of paper that didn't work so well either.
Right. Right.
Other things.
So your first, say, 3, 4, 5 years in real estate, production-wise, business-wise, what was it like for you then when you were just doing the gamut, resale, not necessarily working with a builder full-time?
I was a multi-million-dollar agent. Again, we're talking 17, 18 years ago, so home values were completely different at that time.
Right.
To do a multi-million-dollar level of business, you were doing a lot of transactions,
right. So
because
you're probably
the prices were
15 to 20 deals to get to multi-million-dollar
yes.
producing back then.
Yes.
Whereas now you could, and with average home prices being near 500, you can sell 4 or 5 and be at that level.
Absolutely.
Yep. So still doing really well, right?
Mm-hmm.
In real estate, like I think a lot of people compare themselves to other people. Like they see somebody like yourself or a Laura or a Jemima that are doing these just dozens, if not hundreds, of transactions a year and go like, gosh, why can't I get there when they're a second year, third year agent? What would you say to people that may be struggling mentally with like they're not producing at as high of a level as they think they should be or could be?
Gosh, that's a great question. I feel like for every agent out there, they really need to decide what is it that drives them to get up every day.
Exactly. That's what I tell people a lot.
You have to be passionate about what we're doing. You have to be enjoying this business. You have to have your own drive to get out of bed and do something every day to be in this business and be productive. Everybody has their own thought process, their own goals, their own life obstacles that can put them into a rut. And in this business, it doesn't matter who the agent is. I've across the board, every new agent that comes in, I tell them the thing you need to do is be consistent.
Right.
Every day, get out of bed, take a shower, get dressed, get into the office. There's a lot of agents that incorporate working out, exercise, like their health side of it is super, super important. You know, some have kids and their first priority is getting their kids going in the morning. So everybody needs to look at their own lifestyle and what drives them to be passionate every day and do that, because it's not about the numbers. It's not about, I want to be the number 1 agent or the number 4 in North America. Like it's
Right.
not about numbers. It's about your personal drive to do this every day.
Exactly. Yeah. I love that. And there's nothing wrong with doing any certain level of business if it's making you happy, providing for your family, getting there. And I mean, there's a lot of freedom real estate provides.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of things that, we're on call a lot too, but there's also flexibility that you don't get to enjoy in other industries. So that you have to kind of look at the wins, look at the good times, and focus on those times. Because this is a roller coaster ride. And if you're doing 15 deals a year, you can be doing 4 1 month and then 0 for 2 months. So
Absolutely.
It's a lot different.
And that's a huge important item to explain to new agents as well, that you're going to see all of a sudden things will pick up and you're doing the productive things that you need to do to represent your clients, and you've got several deals under contract, and then they close, and then you're back to the drawing board again. And you've got to be able to ride that roller coaster financially, mentally.
Right.
No 2 days are ever the same in this business. Every day is a totally unique day, which is part of the fun. If you like to be in a business that every day is the same thing, this is not the business for you, because there's no same thing every day in this business. For sure.
So I want to backtrack a little bit. So we talked about the paper and the carbon copies going to where we have Dropbox and DocuSign now. But I was touching a little bit earlier on your production level, kind of catapulting to around 300 per year, and you spending less time in the office. There was obviously DocuSign and Dropbox the previous years leading up to that, where you're here till 5 a.m, like you said.
Right.
Is there anything that changed personally for you, habit-wise, or anything to where it allowed you to get more time to be at home or do things you like doing outside of this business?
Absolutely. So I definitely contribute to having assistants as well. Mm-hmm. Like there's tangible things that they can help me do every day. They're not licensed, so there's a capacity to what they can do every day.
Sure.
I am still 1,000,000% hands-on in every transaction that occurs, and consistently being here, showing up. I probably need to have a better work-life balance. I do work hard at going home at a reasonable-ish hour.
Right.
But again, technology. I've got things with me that's accessible from my pocket anywhere.
Right.
I do have a home computer. So while I'm not physically here in the office as late, I still am available more or less all the time.
Right. And I think you've set up systems too to where that makes it easier to where you're handling things that much more efficiently.
Absolutely.
I learned that early on too, probably like in my second year. My first year, I'd make the mistake of like, if somebody would text me something, I'd say like, shit, I don't quite have the right answer for them, so I'll get back to them later. And then next thing you know, you're out showing homes or you're doing this and doing that, and then you look at your phone and go, oh no, it's 9:30 and I didn't text that person back or whatever.
Right.
So one of the things I picked up from like Dylan at Tycor and stuff, like if I email or text them, it's like instant back. Hey, we acknowledge that we received, and we're working on that. And I've noticed that's something you do as well. Like if you're in a meeting with somebody else, you have that automatic message that goes back out. Say, hey, can't talk right now, but I can text, or busy right now, I'll get back to you later. So at least the person gets some sort of acknowledgement that.
Right. And again, with having multiple cell phones and having assistants, there will be times where I'm in a meeting in my office and it's an important meeting that I need to stay focused, but I will have my phones on me and see that somebody's calling in, and depending on the name, phone number that pops up, sometimes I'm comfortable handing it off and my assistants will grab it and at least take a message and say, hey, she's in a meeting right now, but she'll get back to you. Or sometimes I'm even in a meeting with one of my assistants and I hand the phone off so the other assistant can handle a phone call. That way we're able to stay focused in that moment to continue forward with whatever we're working on. And then I immediately work to get back to phone calls, text messages. And it's not uncommon that one assistant has one cell phone, the other assistant has the other, and they're both spouting off, okay, this is what this message says. And then I'm hurrying and telling them how to respond, and they're texting it. And then they'll read it to me real quick before they push the send button. And I may already be midstream on an email message, and then the other assistant. So it's kind of three me sometimes.
Right. A lot of chaos to balance.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So where do you see yourself going the next 5 years? Like, I mean, things have been crazy the previous 5. Like, where can you see things continuing to go?
Very interesting question. Because I know so many agents set goals for themselves, set goals for their business, their life.
And it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't need to be numbers or anything. It can be a level of professionalism, or it could be even scaling back for some people and doing less. I mean,
right.
It just depends on what you want.
Absolutely. My biggest thing being in this business is I've always had a passion to help people to whatever capacity that looks like. Even from the standpoint of originally just having Infinity homes and then transitioning and being Infinity and ProMade homes, the goal being able to help more people afford the dream of home ownership.
Right.
Personally, I don't see that ever leaving my gut, my drive.
What's in your blood.
That's who I am. Like, so where do I see myself in 5 years? I see myself right here doing the same thing.
Doing the same thing?
Yeah, doing the same thing. Every day I'm working hard to keep improving my processes, my systems, trying to streamline things as much as I can. One little hidden secret that I have is I learned from another professional in this business how to utilize email signatures to their full capacity.
Okay. Can you expand on that, or
sure,
give away the secret sauce here?
I am 1,000,000% like, I'm an open book. I want everybody to learn. If there's something that I'm doing that can help somebody else be more successful, I would love to share my secrets, because I don't feel like it's secrets. Like,
I know.
I want others to be successful. And I found myself constantly retyping the same messages over and over. Mostly when it came to our new construction subdivisions. So when we have a new subdivision, like telling them directions, or like having a link to a packet with a link to CC&Rs, with a link to the development map, back to that technology piece, I have all those documents saved in Dropbox, and I create email signatures per each subdivision that we're in that already has all the information in the email that wouldn't necessarily change.
Right. And it's probably going to answer 30 of the same question coming from 30 different people, 30 different buyers agents in that neighborhood, right?
Absolutely. And then I also have one other kind of modified version of that, because I get a lot of just general public calling, asking questions, wanting to know, where are you currently building? What neighborhoods do you have coming up? So I have another version where it has the subdivision logo, and then it has links to the packets again of our signature plans, our prices. We have a page in there that has elevation shots and prices for each of the homes that are currently available or what's pending per that neighborhood. Generally, there's a map in there, our standard features, floor plans. So I try to give as much information as I can so that the buyer understands it and other agents can be helpful. New construction can be scary.
Right.
There's a lot of agents out there that completely shy away from new construction because they just are uncomfortable with going through that process. They've not built their business or gained that knowledge or had the opportunity to learn it yet. And there's plenty of agents that once they do their first transaction with me, they're like, oh my gosh, that was actually easy.
Right.
And I'm like, well, yeah, for some of us, it's easier than others, but I want everybody to feel like it was easy. Like, I want them to have a comfort level that they want to continue selling our homes and do repeat transactions with us.
Sure.
And I tell new agents all the time, I'm like, hey, if you're writing a first time off with me, even if you're not with my brokerage, like, send me the email with the offer attached so I can double check it before you meet with your clients. Because it's be best as professionals that we're able to say, hey, you might want to mark this box, or hey, you forgot this. Like,
sure. Rather than getting a counter offer back with 23 things fixed on there, then
absolutely,
it's a little more presentable.
Then they have to explain it to their buyer, and then their buyer's like, do you even know what you're doing? Like,
right.
You're going to help me for the next 3 months or 4 months, and the paperwork side of it, you should already know, I hope. But you know what I mean? There's a lot to know and learn. And as much as I can help others, once they've done it once, it's basically copy, paste, repeat. Let's do it again. Let's do it again.
Right.
So if they get it perfected the first time, let's keep it going.
Yep. Yep. And I know I've seen that too. I mean, people will tag you in Facebook posts just saying, oh, it's a pleasure to work with Amy, or when I'm working with Amy and her assistants, like, it just feels like it's smooth from beginning to end. Even though, like, in a new construction home, like the whole home buying process is emotional for most people. It's their biggest purchase, and not only their biggest purchase, like, financially, it's like the biggest thing to them. It's
right.
Their home. Like, that's huge. And when you're doing over 200 a year, there's a person and a story behind each one of those homes that we're delivering keys to. Right. And I know you understand that too, because I know you put a lot of emotion into about every transaction.
I do. The relationship for me is unique, mostly because I am representing my builder's side, but the relationships for me are the agent-to-agent relationships. I may not always get to know the individual stories of all the buyers and their backstory of what's catapulted them into the position of being able to afford a home, or what tragedies they maybe have experienced and what they're going through personally. Like, I, a lot of times, don't hear or know those things, which that's also kind of the fun of our business.
Right.
Getting that personal side and feeling that compassion and the success with your buyers and all the bumps and bruises you encounter along the way with them, or that you shelter them from because you want them to have just this smooth, streamlined transaction. And behind the scenes, as agents and professionals, we're helping to overcome crazy obstacles that the buyer may never hear about, or you tell them the day you hand them the keys and you're like, oh, hey, and by the way, XYZ happened and this almost didn't close, but here's your keys. Congratulations. See you at the barbecue.
Right.
So there's so many things that happen in this business. And as far as the emotional side of it, I get emotional.
No.
I get emotional when I drive through neighborhoods after the houses are done and all the signs are down, and you have no clue that the long hours, the late nights, the weekends, the stressfulness, everything that we've gone through to get to the closing table and give buyers their keys. And once I drive through those neighborhoods, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a home. Like,
yeah, it's a home, and it's a community now.
It's no longer a construction war zone. It's a home. Like, it's beautiful. It's so fun. And then I have some aerial photos of neighborhoods, and then I look back at them and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a year ago. And I see how a whole big, huge section of town has completely changed. Like, the whole terrain has completely changed, and there's families, and I don't know.
Right.
I get really emotional.
That's awesome. I mean, that like we said earlier, I mean, it's your why for getting up, and like when you have that why behind it and the reason for getting up out of bed, fired up in the morning, like it can't just be about numbers. And I mean, I guess that's not bad. If you have a certain goal, that's cool too. But a lot of it's deeper than that, for sure. So you talked about a lot of some agents anyways shy away from new construction because it's a process. I mean, if you're doing a resale home, you might be in this market, you're showing homes for a couple weeks probably. They're under contract, they're closed in 30 to 45 days, and hopefully you stay in touch with them some more to generate future business and keep fostering that relationship.
Yeah.
But with new construction, you're looking at a neighborhood, even if you have a builder that produces at a high level and can build a home in 90 days like Infinity Pro made, that's still, you're with those buyers for 5 months. It's a longer process. There's a lot more to it, a lot more steps along the way.
Right.
So for an agent that has never done new construction or has just barely dabbled in it, what would be your advice on how to learn it from the buyer side? And then after we talk about that, maybe like for representing builders, how do you get to that point?
So to learn it from the buyers or buyer's agent side of it, just call me, text me, let me know what your buyer's looking for. And I will do my best in some fashion as much as possible to find something that we may have out there. And I may shoot something wild to you and say, what about Grandview?
Right.
And they're like, oh, no. They don't want to drive that far. Okay. Now we know some barriers. We know distances.
Some whys of the buyers.
Absolutely.
Right?
And then once I send the emails, my packets are uber detailed. Back to the OCD part.
Yeah.
They're super detailed. My emails are super detailed. And then I encourage the agents to review the information. And once they've had an opportunity to review it, call me back and let's discuss whatever further questions you have and what I can help answer.
Right.
I try to make the information as easily understandable to a brand new agent to a brand new first time buyer. So that it's understandable on basically every level. I don't know. I've worked so hard on the packets that I send out to make sure that the information is as easy to follow as I can make it. But I'm always open to critique. So if somebody says, hey, have you thought about this? Or can you add this? Or should you do that? Like, I'm open to other methods.
I think that's a good point too. Like, just lean on the listing agent, even if it's not you. If a buyer finds some other ABC builder that's represented by a different broker or different firm, or even people that are listening to this in other states or whatever, lean on the people that have the knowledge to a degree, to where most builders I found, people that represent builders, want to not make the buyer agent look dumb or like that they don't know what they're doing or whatever. Like, the end goal is to get somebody into their dream home.
Absolutely.
So lean on those people.
Well, and especially in the position that I'm in, being that I represent my builders, I want to represent them at the highest level that I can of professionalism and responsiveness and being accessible. I try so hard every day to make sure that agents know, like, they'll call me and like, oh my gosh, you answered your phone. I'm like, well, of course I'm going to answer my phone. Like, there's especially like agents that I know and their phone numbers pop up in my phone. Like, I save agents' names in my phone. So when people call me, for the most part, I know who's calling me. It's not just a phone number popping up on my phone. It's a person to me, and it's somebody that I respect, and they're in this industry, and they're out there day and night, nights, weekends. They're taking time away from their families, and they're dedicating themselves to this business. And I appreciate that so much. And I am way fortunate of the opportunities that I have, and I don't take that for granted any day.
Sure.
I'm fortunate that there's an amazing amount of support here at our brokerage, from leadership team to our office staff, and then to the standpoint of all the agents that are here, because they're the ones on the weekends that do the open houses, and they're out there working to procure the buyer side of the transactions and answer questions at the opens and model homes. And so we're running around throughout the week, moving furniture, getting things set up, making sure they look beautiful. If I have a vacuum cleaner in the trunk of my car sometimes, because we're running through and vacuuming things to make it look as beautiful as we can and set the stage so that agents can go in and just be themselves. yeah, new construction's fun.
Yep. So your story on how you got involved with actually listing new construction homes, how did you get there? Like, what was leading up to it, and how did that kind of get you to where you are today?
Great question. So this goes all the way back to when I was about 4 years old.
All right. I like that.
We lived in Forks, Washington, Timbuktu.
All right.
I would get up in the morning on Sunday morning, and there was the PBS channel that they had, another brokerage. They had still photos that would pop up on the screen, and it was advertising the open houses in the Olympia area for that weekend. And here I am, 4 years old, eating my Lucky Charms knockoff and looking at open houses. Why does a 4-year-old do that? And then right after that came on This Old House, which at that time probably should have been called This New House,
right.
But it was still called This Old House. And I would watch it. It's weird. Why does a kid do that?
Apparently it was meant to be. I mean, some kids want to be firefighters. You wanted to look at homes.
I wanted to look at homes from age of 4. So how did that transition? My family has a construction company. So I was raised around construction from the time I was in kindergarten through graduation and still to this day. My grandparents had a construction company, dump trucks, log trucks, belly dumps. They eventually at one point bought a rock quarry. They had the crushing machinery. They put in the jetty out at the beach. I mean, it's all in our small town of Montesano. And I was around business and construction since as long as I can remember. We lived with my grandma when I was 5, and I was around business. And from a very young age, I learned how to professionally answer the phone, and that business doesn't stop. And if a customer needs something, you're there for them. And if they're having a rough day or something crazy is happening in their life, you're there for them. And my family's been in that community forever. And was Vesey and Sons Construction, and eventually now my cousins are operating the business. One cousin in particular, and then another cousin is now taking over his dad's trucking company. And so it's really interesting to see how the generations have transformed and taken over the businesses. So I've been around business my entire life, and I went off to college. Initially was thinking I was going to get an accounting degree.
Okay.
And then I ended up getting a double major in information technology and administrative management.
I'd imagine some of that is somewhat useful.
It is. And I had a minor in personal computer applications.
All right.
So yeah, it was good.
So when you got into real estate, did you always kind of have a goal of like going towards new construction and doing that, or did it matter?
From the moment I got into real estate, my mentor at the time, she was representing a builder, and so I learned new construction from the first day that I got started.
Yep.
And so it's always been comfortable for me. I was fortunate that the builder kind of took me under his wing, and he would walk me through the new construction job sites, and I would learn the terms and the information and how construction works and how a home's built. And new construction rolls over to every part of real estate.
Sure.
And it was fun for me to learn it.
Yep.
And so I initially was doing open houses for that new construction builder and sitting the opens on the weekends, and eventually started representing the buyers on those and gained a comfort level. And my very first transaction, my buyer was an attorney.
Fun?
Sure. That was scary. And I remember staying up like the whole night, the night before I went to meet with her to present the offer, to review it with her. And I no more than sat down. She's like, oh, yeah, no, just let me sign. And I'm like, what?
Thinking she's going to go through on every checkbox.
Yeah. I'm thinking I got to explain this whole oh, no. She just wanted to sign.
That's awesome.
She trusted me and she was just going to sign. And I'm like, oh, what am I in for now? So that was heart palpitations.
Yeah.
But
So how long into your career before you actually started representing builders from the list side?
it was right in that first year.
Was it? Okay.
So the mentor that I had, she had another builder opportunity that came her direction. So then we were working together to co-list for that builder. And that builder did a handful of houses, I think a total of 6, and then realized that his talents and skills were better in a different aspect of construction.
Okay.
But not being the actual builder side of it. So he transitioned his business and actually started becoming site super and foreman for another builder who was kind of new coming into our market. And then when I was sitting open houses, I had other builders that would come in and shop their competition's product.
Sure.
And I got to know some of them, not knowing initially who they were or anything about them. They didn't introduce themselves saying, oh, hey, I'm the builder for the project across the street.
Absolutely not. They're trying to get their intel.
Exactly. So they come in and you're trying to figure out who they are and what house they're going to buy from you. And they're not really giving you the answers you're expecting to normally hear. And then pretty soon he really divulged who he was and was impressed with my knowledge of new construction and wanted to bring me onto his team and represent him. And so I was super nervous because I didn't know how to represent a builder at that point. I didn't know what it was going to take to help sell their product and get it exposed to the market. And I was still such a new agent and it made me nervous, but he was impressed by me because of my knowledge and skill set of new construction. So then once I was representing him, it was kind of weird how it just so quickly clicked and surprising that it did. And it just kind of became second nature, like it was part of me since I was 4 years old.
Right. Awesome. All right. Well, we're about 45 minutes into this. Is there anything you want to say to cap it off? I guess maybe I should ask you one more question. So if an agent, if you had one piece of advice or a couple pieces of advice for a new agent that was starting off today, what would you tell them? Or an agent that maybe is also maybe struggling. They've been in a year and haven't quite hit their stride or whatever.
Let me think. So I did have a new agent that was contemplating which brokerage they were going to hang their license at. And he sent me a text message and introduced himself as being this new kid on the block, about to get licensed and trying to figure out where to go. And he asked if I would have some time to meet with him. So it was late at night on like a Wednesday or Thursday night. And he came in and we talked for probably a good hour and a half. And I told him anything I could. He had a list of questions that he wanted to ask me, and I, of course, answered every one of his questions and probably gave him way more information than he ever thought he was going to get.
Right.
I spent a good hour and a half or more with him going through stuff, and I think consistency is huge in this business. Waking up every day and coming into the brokerage. It's easy to sit at home behind your home computer and send out a couple of emails and make a sandwich and move a load of laundry. But if you're brand new in the business, you've got to learn the business. And what you did to get your license isn't the same as what you're going to do the business.
Right.
And being in a brokerage with agents around that already know the business, just being there and listening to the conversations is going to help improve your vocabulary in this business, because it is like learning another language.
Right.
And it's really, really important as a new agent to immerse yourself in that language and be there every day. Because if you're sitting at home, you're not going to learn it. And then pretty soon you're going to get into habits that don't become productive for the business. And it's really important to be a sponge and absorb it and learn it as fast as you can. And know that 3 days from now, there could be something that changes. And now what you thought you knew and learned, it's out the window. And now we're learning something different. Education is huge in this business. And another big thing that I tell new agents is kind of back to the financial side of this. Set your business up from the get-go as a business. Don't look at it that a commission check comes in and, oh, it's payday and I'm going to go buy this, that, or the other thing, or take a trip or whatever. Like, you have to set yourself up as a business, start your business accounts, put money into your business, and then pay yourself a salary that's small, as minimal as you can get by on to pay your bills and survive, at least for the first year. Build your savings account up so that my goal is always to have at least 2 years of reserves saved up. So if something happens, or shoot, a closing that you were expecting to happen didn't happen, and now the deal fell apart and you're back to the drawing board, you know you're not stressed and struggling to get the next deal put together because you're on the verge of, do I hang up my hat and not do this business?
Right.
You've got a budget for whatever the business does and however it flows. I know that there's different philosophies on how much you should set aside for, your backup account. But definitely your business gets paid first, and then you pay yourself a salary and you live on that salary. You, at the end of the year, can celebrate if you've had a super successful year and do a little something fun and put a little extra out there, Christmas presents, whatever, give back. But definitely set yourself up like a business from the get-go.
Yeah, I think so too. I think what you said about education, that's huge too, but not just like education coming up and doing continuing education courses and stuff like that, but like getting actual education from people that are in the business. I know when I first started, I called my cousin, who's a successful realtor on the west side of the state, and asked, hey, do you have one piece of advice? She said, well, I would come in and find some agents that are producing at a decent level, or where you would see yourself going, and see if you can help them in any way you can. Yeah. That's why I reached out to you. I just, I saw the new construction level you were doing and was interested in doing that, and just said, hey, what can I do to help? And hey, you want to do some open houses? And that's kind of how our relationship spawned. But it's huge being able to be a new agent, going to somebody that's been in the business for a while and just picking up those little things here and there along the way. Yeah. So I want to close by saying I appreciate you coming on and everything. It's been fun. Enjoyed the conversation.
Absolutely.
So I think we'll end it how I normally do when I'm leaving your office. Good talk.
Absolutely. See you soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks again.